Hey everybody, today I'm going to be sharing our high school group homeschool curriculum choices, that's a mouthful, for 2022-2023. Hey guys, welcome back to My Practically Imperfect Life. My name's Abby, homeschooling mom of 2 high school students, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel where I share all things homeschooling and mom life. This video is part 3 of our Launch Week series, where I introduce you to all of the curriculum choices we've made for the 2022-2023 school year, as well as how I get started with planning lessons in advance and how I get my grade books set up. So hopefully the information that you see this week will be helpful to you as you plan the high school years for your homeschooling student. If you'd like to check out the individual subjects that my 9th and 10th graders are doing, you can check the videos out down below, and any curriculum I mentioned today I will also link in the description box. Today's video is focused on our group subjects. Many of you probably would call this your morning basket subjects, but we just call it group subjects as a family. And these are the courses that my students are doing together. And that does make for a little bit easier time for me because they're so close in age that I can teach these classes to both of them at the same time. They can both earn their high school credits for it. And it's a little less curriculum that I have to buy every year. So let's jump right on in and show you what we have. All right, this is all of our material for this year for our group studies. One thing I do want to say is we're not doing all of this all at once. Things like our read alouds, we're obviously doing one at a time. Our devotionals, we're doing one at a time, and things like that. But I just wanted to give you an idea of everything we're using. We also don't do every single one of these every day. Some of them we do 3 days a week, some 2 days a week, and some things are daily. So one thing we start with every day is reading from On This Day in History, Famous Leaders. This is just a little book I found at Barnes & Noble. And for a given day, we read about a leader and what it is that they did. It's interesting in that it has things from all over the world. So, this is Prince Eugene in Belgrade, and then we have like Genghis Khan, we have things that presidents did, Martin Luther King Jr. Just gives them a little bit of extra history information every day, and it only takes a minute or two to read. Our Bible devotionals we do every day. These are all from Daily Grace Co. If you are not familiar with that company, they sell a lot of different types of Bible devotionals. I have been doing them for the last 2 years, and last Christmas I purchased a women's study my daughter and I did, and then a men's study for my son and my son and his stepdad. Given that the kids are in high school now, I thought these would be a great addition in how we do our daily devotionals. The way that they work is pretty similar from study to study. Typically they have 5 lessons a week, and then they'll have a weekly reflection. We just do the 5-day lessons for the week. We skip the weekly reflection, and then we move on to the next week. That is just how we chose to do it. But basically, let me find one we haven't filled out yet. Each day it'll give you Bible verses to read, and then the devotion itself. So the kids read the Bible verses out loud, I read this part, and then I read out these questions here, and then they answer them in their notebooks. So we just have these notebooks. They fill out their devotion questions here. There's no right or wrong. We just want to get our thoughts down on paper, and then we discuss what we wrote. So I fill my answers in the book. They fill theirs in their notebook, and then we talk about it. This is the one we're starting with for this year. More than anything, a study on idolatry. This has been really good. There's been a couple of times where I've been reading it and thought, yep, I need to work on that one, that's for sure. It covers everything from just like some of these topics I thought were really good. Busyness, control, comfort, self-sufficiency, appearance, body image, and then some of them that you may not have thought about, like work, knowledge, security, materialism, perfectionism, things that I'm sure lots of us moms probably struggle with. Very eye-opening for me. So that's the one we're starting with. We have Amen, a story of scripture from Eden to eternity. The Lord's Prayer. Emotions and the Heart. I thought this would be another good one because we all know when you hit high school And hormones are flying, emotions also run wild. So I thought that would be a really good one for this year. Arise, a study of Nehemiah. I picked this one simply because this is not a chapter of the Bible that any of us are super familiar with, and I thought it would be good for us to do. And then the Sermon on the Mount. This one I was really interested in doing. If you haven't watched the TV show The Chosen, you should. But last season, their whole buildup was to the Sermon on the Mount, and it got me looking at that part of Scripture more closely, and then I really wanted to do this Bible study with my kids. So we will work on these different ones all throughout the year. Daily Grace Co. does release like an Advent study and a Lent study, but they're not out yet, and I will purchase those when they arrive. Okay, so daily devotions are exactly how they sound. We do those daily. But Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so 3 days a week, we also do this program that I got from Concordia Publishing House. So we are Lutheran, and because of that, I do like to make sure I include some curriculum that is Lutheran specific. And CPH had on their website these high school courses. There's, I think, like 12 of them. But I just purchased 2 for this year. God's Old Testament People, so the teacher guide and the student book, and then For God So Loved, study of the Gospel of John. They have ones that take you through like Acts and the works of the apostles, and there's more focused studies on different parts. There's one on Revelations, there's one on relationships. I just figured we would start with Old Testament review and then jump into the gospel. To be honest, I haven't really found myself needing the teacher guide very much. If I purchase this for next year, the next couple books, I won't buy the teacher guide. I think that's really more necessary if you're teaching it in a classroom setting. The student guide honestly works out just fine. We just do a session each day that we do it, read through it, answer the questions out loud. So this is all discussion as a family. There's Bible verses that we look up and read along the way. And it just takes us through the Old Testament, exactly how it sounds. That's the one we're starting on, and then we will do this one. We should get to this one probably in January, and it is the same idea. We have readings, we have Bible verses we look up, and then we discuss all of these questions as we go through it. This has created a lot of healthy discussion with my kids, so if you are looking for something that will get you all thinking and talking, I would recommend this. But don't buy the teacher guide. You don't need it. Just get student books. So that is 3 days a week. 2 days a week, we do an art appreciation course. This course is called The Master and His Apprentices. This was actually written, I believe the author was a homeschool student himself. The book is online. Well, not online. It's a PDF download. It's 300 pages, I believe. Lots of big color pictures. So I did not print out the textbook. We read it on the laptops or the desktop computer, and then I just printed out the teacher guide. There is an option to purchase the actual textbook, but I think it was a difference of, it was like $100 if you got the textbook, but only $30 for the PDF download, something like that. So it just didn't seem worth the extra expense. We just read it, and then, like I said, I printed out the teacher guide. It does give you a nice example of the syllabus, and it is covering art history from a Christian perspective. So as far as, you know, when things are timed and whatnot, and lots of references back to how artists and the art that we create can be used to glorify God. The first couple chapters deal with God as the master artist. All of the things he created focuses on how truly everything was created for our benefit. Takes us through the days of creation, and then we get into specific periods. The way I do this is I assign the reading. So for example, week 4, there were pages to read from chapter 3 on the ancient Near East. I give them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to get that reading done. I also print off a copy of these discussion questions for them. While I don't require them to fill it all out and turn it in, I encourage them to take notes, because on Thursday, we go through and we discuss these, and I do grade them based on how active they are in the discussion. So it's very easy to tell if they did not do the reading or if they did not take notes. So they have figured that out. After the first week, they figured out that they needed to be taking notes as they read, because there's quite a bit that's covered and a lot to remember. So I give them a copy of this, and then they fill this out and we do the reading assignments. A couple of times a year, it assigns a paper, and it tells you here what the papers are to be about. So their first paper, for example, is on an artist style or specific art piece from the ancient Near East, Egyptian, or Aegean periods, and it tells you what percentage of the final grade it is to be. There are guides in here telling you how the papers are to be written, what's to be included, and things like that. So I will have them write these 4 papers throughout the year, and we will be doing the exams. So after we get through chapter 5, they will take an exam over chapters 1 through 5. The writer of this curriculum does point out, though, he doesn't make them sit there and put an exact date and things like that on works of art, but we should be able to know, who the artist was or what time period or type of example of art it is. Oh, so here you go. For example, here's art pieces that were covered in exam 4. Which time period or type of art was it? This is definitely a high school level course. I would not try to do this with your middle schoolers. A lot of terminology, lots of things to look at and understand. But really good course so far. Again, I'm doing the readings right along with the kids. I am learning a lot along the way. I really am more of a physical book person. I think in retrospect, it would have been nice to purchase the textbook. I just couldn't justify the cost of the textbook versus having it on PDF. But if you could swing it, I would recommend that you get the textbook. Another class that we do every day as a group is German. German is one of those languages that it's really, really hard to find curriculum for. Very easy to find French curriculum, very easy to find Spanish, but not so much German. And you might go, well, then why would you choose to do German? Few reasons. One, this is our family heritage. We can trace back our family tree to people who immigrated from Austria, Poland, and Germany. So I wanted us to, be in touch with our heritage. And 2, I took German for 4 years in high school, including AP German, got a chance to travel to Germany. I'm actually going to Germany and Switzerland with my daughter and our Girl Scout troop next summer. It would be nice if she could speak some of the language while we are there. And really, since it's the language that I learned growing up, it's the language I feel comfortable teaching and helping them with. So German it is. The downside, like I said, is being able to find curriculum. I did find this company called Klett, and they produce German textbooks. These really are designed for a classroom, but this was very easy to adapt for a homeschool. This is our level 2, so we are on our 2nd year of German. We also did it last year, so my son got a high school German credit in the 8th grade. My daughter got a German credit for freshman year and now her sophomore year. I have purchased the textbook, so Kursbuch is the textbook. There is a student workbook, teacher guide, a test booklet, and then there's a booklet that has extra worksheets and assignments that you can do. These are really great for review. Here's the thing though. Every bit of this is in German. There is not a lick of English anywhere. So unless you know German and can read it and speak it, this is not the course for you. But I do want to show it to you simply because there will probably be some people out there who this would work for. So the textbooks are divided into chapters, and then you have different sections. There are lots of things where it will tell you to, go onto their app. There's audio and video clips. So here it'll tell us that we're listening to this particular audio. There is a free app that goes along with this book, and right from the app I can put in, which level we're in and which page number we're on, and then I can play the audio for them. I can also play like these video clips that go along with it for them as well. So the textbooks are really nice. As far as how it teaches the language, it's introducing new vocabulary, sentence structure, and grammar tips a little bit at the time. One of the hardest things I think about learning any new language, it's not learning the words themselves, it's learning how the grammar works and how it is different from English. People in other parts of the world will tell you that English is messed up. And it is. We have a lot of weird, eccentric things about the English language, but it's what we know. And so then when you have to try to do a new language, that is quite tough. So it introduces a little bit of grammar concepts each chapter, and then they just build upon one another. So that is the textbook. Along with that, we do the pages in the student workbook. Again, some of these will have like audio that we will listen to in order to do the assignment. Each of my kids have their own workbook, and this is where their assignments will be for them to do on any given day. These extra worksheets, I largely use these when we're reviewing for tests because it will be similar in structure to what their tests will look like. But there's also sections, let me see if I can find it. Has the answer key in the back for the teacher, but there's also sections that focus on verbal conversations. Oh, you know what? I bet it's in this one. Oh. Here's my test booklets. I just make a photocopy, one for each of the kids. Answer key is in the back again for those. The tests do require them to do some listening. So for example, on this problem, there would be an audio piece we listen to, and then that's how they would fill it in. Some of it they have to be able to just know the words or know the conjugations of the verbs and things like that, showing that they know the grammar concepts. There's usually some free writing, so they have to be able to appropriately write different types of sentences in German as well. And then the teacher book. So again, not a lick of English. Instead, it takes you through, tells you what it is you're going to be doing for each part of the lessons, if there's any audio or video that you need to do as well. Oh, here it is. Extra worksheets you can print off to do with them. I do tend to do that. I think that that's helpful. There's parts in here where there are conversation tests, basically, that you do with your students. So holding a conversation about given topics with them. So they get to practice the writing, the reading, and the speaking of the language. This is the CD version of the app. I don't use this because my desktop no longer has a CD player in it. So I just use the app pretty much exclusively. But it's a good course for German. You just have to be able to speak German to teach it. And then I get a couple of little extras that we utilize. For example, this is kind of like German grammar cards. These are just reference cards that I keep on hand for them. So if they need to remember a grammar rule, they can look at that. These are just a few of the huge stack of quiz cards that we have. This is great. It gives us a verb and an example of it in a sentence. On the back side, it gives us the meaning and then all of the different forms of the conjugation of the verbs on the back. So if you have taken German, this will make sense. If you haven't, probably won't. But it's nice for us to be able to do those. And then I subscribe to German Life magazine. Thankfully, a lot of this is in English. I mean, I don't mind reading a whole bunch of German. Keeps my skills up, but occasionally it's nice to read about Germany in English. But we just get these because it's got some cool little cultural things that we share. And then last but not least, we do read out loud. Even in high school, we still do read out loud. Just read about a chapter or two a day of different books. These are just some of the books that I've selected so far this year. We are starting with Bound by Ice, a North Pole survival story. Very interesting story, true story. And we have been amazed by how willingly people went into really dangerous situations based on false information. That's kind of the key with that book there. When we get to October, we'll be reading The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, simply because Halloween, right? The Man Who Broke into Auschwitz. I'm gonna say that wrong. My mouth is really dry, so bear with me. Flowers for Algernon. I do like to include some of these older books each year. Like last year we read of Mice and Men, which is a terribly sad story if you've not read it. This is a great book. I read this in high school and I really wanted my kids to be able to hear it. Spirit of a Revolution. We actually picked this up at the Great Homeschool Convention. It was, right. So it's basically like people who were important in American history, but aren't really well known. So this is about like the Boston Tea Party and things like that. Thought it would be interesting to read, especially with my daughter doing all the US history stuff this year. This was another book that I picked up at the Great Homeschool Convention. So this is a Holocaust story. This is written by a Holocaust survivor called Shores Beyond Shores. The gal who was selling this book with its study guide actually got to meet this author. So this is their story, and then they created this study guide to go along with it. Now we won't, make this like a formal study or anything, but I thought it would be good for us to use this as kind of a reference as we're reading this story and see what we can learn. But it was a cool little, study book that she had here. And in the back, here's all of these little extras, documents and pictures of things that you can look at as you're going through it. So I just thought that was neat. I don't think it costs very much at the convention, but I love learning more about World War II and the Holocaust, especially in this day and age when you have a lot of people downplaying the importance of that time period. If we ignore the mistakes of the past, we're bound to repeat them in the future, right? So that is our stack of books. If we get through all of those, I have a huge bookshelf full of other options, but those are the ones that I've pulled aside for right now. So that is our group curriculum for this year. Read Out Loud, German, Art Appreciation, and our Bible and devotional studies. Credit-wise, I give the kids 2 credits or a full year credit for German, because we do that every day. No credit for Read Out Loud. It's just simply something that we need to do. I am not sure yet. I think I'm going to give Art Appreciation a full year credit or 2 credits, because the essays and the tests are going to be tough. It's going to take them some time and effort to do those and do those well. And although we aren't doing the course together every day, they are having to do the reading and the preparation for the discussion days in advance. So I'm leaning heavily towards giving them 2 credits for this. And then Bible study, we give them a full year credit combined, because we do the daily devotionals and we dive into so much with these Bible studies. So essentially these are 4 one-year courses that we have for them here. All right, guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me for our group subject video. Tomorrow, we'll be diving into lesson planning, so how I get things organized and set up and start determining what I'm going to be doing when with my students. Every day this week, we'll be bringing you a new planning video to hopefully help you get organized for your homeschool year. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can see when I post new content. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you again soon.